By February of 1943, the Allied war machine faced a brutal strategic riddle. Every German commander in the Mediterranean knew that Sicily was the obvious next target, the natural stepping stone to Italy itself. Hitler was already rushing reinforcements to the island. If the Allies attacked where the enemy expected them, the beaches would become a slaughterhouse. So British intelligence decided to try something never attempted before. They would deceive the German high command by dropping a dead body with false documents onto the Spanish coast. The plan came before the XX Committee, a secret panel of double-cross experts meeting in a cramped basement off Whitehall. They called it Operation Mincemeat. The scheme was audacious: take a corpse, dress it as a British officer, and let it wash ashore in Spain carrying secret letters pointing to Allied invasions of Sardinia and Greece. The Germans would intercept the documents, study them, and redirect their defenses away from Sicily. The committee approved the operation in early February, and the strange work began. That work fell to two men in a tiny room deep inside the Admiralty. Ewan Montagu was a naval intelligence officer, a lawyer by training with a taste for the macabre and a gift for deception. Charles Cholmondeley was an eccentric MI5 officer, a tall, gangling man with a flair for intricate plotting. Together, they had to build a fictional human being from scratch. They chose the name William Martin, a major in the Royal Marines. They wrote him a worried father, a devoted fiancée named Pam, and a bank manager chasing him for an overdraft of £53. A signed photograph of a pretty girl went into his wallet alongside a love letter. But the heart of the deception was a single forged letter. Montagu drafted it as a personal message from General Nye, the Vice Chief of the Imperial General Staff, to General Alexander in North Africa. The letter spoke of planned Allied invasions of Greece and Sardinia using the code names Husky and Brimstone. It mentioned Sicily only in passing as a cover target designed to fool the Germans. The paper had to look worn, the ink pressed into the fibers of the page, the signature practiced until it matched Nye's own handwriting. It was, Montagu later wrote, the most carefully crafted lie of the war. On April 19th, HMS Seraph backed away from the dock at Holy Loch in the dead of night. Her commander, Lieutenant William Jewell, knew this patrol would be unlike any other. Stowed in the forward torpedo compartment was a specially built metal canister packed with dry ice. Inside it lay the body of a man who had died 3 months before. The dry ice kept the temperature steady, preserving the corpse for the long voyage south. Jewell's sealed orders told him to deliver this cargo to the waters off the coast of Huelva, Spain. The man in the canister had worn no uniform in life. In death, he was to become Major William Martin of the Royal Marines, a courier carrying the Allies' most secret plans. For Jewell and his crew, the mission felt strange and solemn. They knew the body was central to some larger deception, but the full picture remained hidden. The success of an entire invasion might depend on what this dead man carried in the locked briefcase chained to his belt. 3 days after Seraph sailed, Ewan Montagu attended a dinner that would help seal the fiction. He took Jean Leslie, the secretary who had posed as the fictional Pam, to London's Gargoyle Club. Montagu chose the spot deliberately. He wanted a place where the date could be stamped on receipts, fixing the timeline of Major Martin's last days on Earth. Over dinner, Montagu and Leslie played their parts. They talked, they laughed, and they made sure the staff saw them together. When the bill came, Montagu kept the receipt. The date stamp read April 22nd. That slip of paper would later be found in Major Martin's wallet, proof that he had been alive and in love just days before his supposed death. The evening was half real and half invented. Montagu looked across the table at Leslie, a young woman in uniform, and felt the weight of what he was doing. The dead man would carry a photograph of her signed with a message of love. It was a lie that had to be perfect, because the lives of thousands of soldiers now depended on it. On the morning of April 30th, a Spanish fisherman named Jose Rey rowed out from Punta Umbria to check his nets. Near the shore, he spotted something floating in the gray dawn light. It was a body wearing the uniform of a British officer held up by an RAF lifebelt. Rey hauled the corpse into his boat and headed back to the beach. Spanish authorities arrived quickly at the scene. The dead man carried identification papers for Major William Martin. Attached to his waist by a strap was a black briefcase, still locked and sealed. Inside were documents stamped with the highest levels of secrecy. The local naval officer, Mariano Pascual del Pobil, took custody of the case and ordered an inquest. Major Martin was buried on May 2, 1943, in the Nuestra Señora de la Soledad Cemetery with full military honors. A Spanish bugler played the last post, and the grave was draped with flowers. The briefcase, its contents already read by Spanish authorities but still unseen by German eyes, began its slow journey through Spanish officialdom toward the waiting Germans. In Huelva, the German spy Adolf Kloss was growing desperate. A butterfly collector by hobby and an Abwehr agent by trade, Kloss had spent years cultivating the local Guardia Civil commander, Lieutenant Colonel Santiago Garrigos, and the civilian governor, Joaquin Miranda Gonzalez. Both were eager to help the Germans, both received German money, but neither had the courage to simply walk into the naval judge's office and demand to see the dead officer's papers. The briefcase sat locked in a Spanish safe, and every attempt to pry it open came up against the stubborn honesty of the local Navy men. Kloss promised his superiors in Madrid he could obtain copies. Day after day he failed. The British knew exactly what was happening, and they wanted the Germans to get those papers. In Madrid, the naval attaché, Alan Hilgarth, began to spread quiet rumors about the important documents that had washed ashore. He knew that Spanish gossip was like a telegraph wire straight to the Abwehr. Hilgarth also paid a call on the Spanish Minister of Marine, Admiral Moreno, who professed friendship to the British while quietly leaking everything he knew to the German embassy. Within days, the hunt for the briefcase had moved beyond Kloss in Huelva and into the higher reaches of the Spanish state. The Germans wanted those documents badly, and now powerful men were helping them. On the 9th of May, 9 days after the body was found, Lieutenant Colonel Ramon Pardo Suarez of the Spanish General Staff walked into the German embassy in Madrid. He carried the 2 sealed letters from the briefcase. Pardo was a veteran informant, a man who had worked with German intelligence for years. He handed the documents to Wilhelm Leisner, the Abwehr chief in Spain, who took them straight to the basement and had them photographed. The seals were intact, the Spanish technicians having used a thin metal probe to extract the letters without breaking the wax. Karl Erich Kuhlenthal, the ambitious young case officer who ran the Abwehr's spy networks from Madrid, watched as the letters were copied and then carefully reinserted into their envelopes. Kuhlenthal was the golden boy of German intelligence in Spain. Eager, clever, and hungry for a coup, he knew the papers were dynamite. The letter from General Nye to General Alexander laid out a full invasion plan, an attack on Greece, codenamed Husky, and a second assault on Sardinia, codenamed Brimstone. Sicily was mentioned only as a cover target. Kuhlenthal did not hesitate. He took the photographic copies and flew to Berlin himself. The information was too sensitive for wireless. He would deliver it in person to the High Command. The documents that had floated ashore on a dead body were now speeding toward the desk of Adolf Hitler. The analysis fell to Lieutenant Colonel Alexis Baron von Rohen, the head of German military intelligence for the West. Von Rohen was a small, bespectacled aristocrat with a reputation for infallibility. Hitler trusted him completely. On the 11th of May, von Rohen studied the photographs of the letters and wrote his assessment. He declared the documents absolutely authentic. The Spanish had confirmed the body, the life belt, the uniform, the identity papers matched, the love letter from the fiancé, the receipt from the London club, the photograph of the girl, it all fit together too perfectly to be a plant. Von Rohen's report was unequivocal. The Allies were coming to Greece and Sardinia. Sicily was a feint. Hitler acted immediately. On the 12th of May, he issued a general directive ordering all forces to strengthen the defenses of Sardinia and the Peloponnese. The German High Command moved the 1st Panzer Division from France to Greece. Troops were shifted away from Sicily. Italian commanders who warned that Sicily was the real target were overruled. The deception had taken root at the very top. In London, the ultra-intercepts began to arrive, and the men in Room 13 knew their strange plan had worked. On the 12th of May, the day Hitler issued his directive, the interceptors picked up a message from General Jodl himself, describing the intelligence as absolutely reliable. Mincemeat had been swallowed, and the German war machine was moving to meet an enemy that existed only on paper. Throughout June, the Allies waged a second war of shadows. In Cairo, British planners conjured a fictional 12th Army, complete with dummy tanks and radio traffic, poised to strike the Peloponnese. Greek maps were distributed to troops, and interpreters were recruited for a campaign that would never come. The deception was designed to make the Germans see what they already believed, that the main blow would fall on Greece. From a safe house in London, the double agent Juan Pujol, known to the Abwehr as Agent Arabelle, sent a stream of reports that reinforced the lie. He described troop concentrations in the eastern Mediterranean and hinted at preparations for an assault on Sardinia. His messages were lies, but they were lies the Germans desperately wanted to hear. Kuhlenthal, his handler in Madrid, passed every word straight to Berlin in the rugged mountains of Greece. British saboteurs of the Special Operations Executive cut railway lines and blew up bridges. The explosions echoed through the Balkan foothills, sending a clear signal to the German high command. The invasion of Greece was imminent. Hitler, already convinced by the forged letters, saw the sabotage as confirmation. He ordered more troops to the Aegean and held the 1st Panzer Division in the Peloponnese, waiting for an attack that would never come. On the night of July 9th, the sea off southern Sicily was rough and black. Lieutenant William Jewell brought HMS Seraph to the surface just 1,000 yards from the coast at Gela. The submarine had been given a new mission: lay a radar beacon buoy to guide the invasion fleet to the correct beach. The canister in the hold no longer held a corpse. It held the instruments that would lead the largest armada ever assembled straight into the heart of the Axis. The crew lifted the heavy buoy onto the deck and waited. Jewell scanned the darkness through his binoculars. 400 yards away, a German E-boat sat motionless, its silhouette stark against the night sky. The enemy vessel had not yet opened fire, but it had surely seen them. Jewell ordered the buoy lowered over the side and whispered to his men to clear the deck. Every second felt like an hour as the submarine lay exposed and helpless. The E-boat did not attack. Her captain hesitated, uncertain whether the shadow before him was friend or foe. Jewell seized the moment, ordering the hatch sealed and the boat submerged. As Seraph slipped beneath the waves, the first wave of bombers roared overhead, their engines filling the darkness with a low, thickening drone. Behind them, 3,000 ships stretched across the horizon, carrying 160,000 soldiers toward the Sicilian shore. At dawn on July 10th, the guns opened fire. Destroyers hammered the coastal defenses while landing craft churned through the surf toward the beaches. Major Derek Leverton of the Royal Artillery came ashore near Syracuse, wading through the wreckage of gliders that had crashed short of their marks. On the sand, he found 2 dead paratroopers. He brewed a cup of tea and waited for his guns to arrive. The resistance was far lighter than anyone had dared to hope. The Italian coastal divisions melted away at the first contact, their morale shattered and their equipment obsolete. The Hermann Goering Armored Division counterattacked near Gela, but it was too late and too weak. The panzers had been held inland, waiting for a feint that never came. The beachhead was already solidifying, and the German commanders knew they had been outmaneuvered by a phantom. By nightfall, over 100,000 Allied soldiers were ashore. The invasion of Sicily, the largest amphibious assault in history, had succeeded with casualties far below the worst forecasts. In the Admiralty basement in London, Montagu and Cholmondeley received the news and allowed themselves a single moment of quiet relief. The man who never was had changed the course of the war. Hitler finally understood the scale of the trick, but there was nothing he could do. The Allied beachhead in Sicily was already secure, and his divisions were scattered across Sardinia and Greece, waiting for an invasion that would never come. The Führer rushed 2 more divisions toward the island, but they arrived too late to change the outcome. The fate of Sicily was sealed in 1953 after years of official secrecy and a fictionalized account by a cabinet minister. Montagu published The Man Who Never Was. The book revealed the full story of the deception to an astonished public and became an international bestseller. Hollywood turned it into a film, and the strange tale of the dead courier entered the realm of legend. The last secret fell in 1997. A historian named Roger Morgan, digging through declassified government files, found the truth buried in an unredacted sentence at the end of a wartime report. The Commonwealth War Graves Commission added a simple line to the marble slab in Huelva Cemetery. Glyndwr Michael served as Major William Martin, R.M., the homeless laborer from Wales who died alone of phosphorus poisoning and was taken to a mortuary in the middle of the night, was finally named. After the war, Montagu returned to the law and became a celebrated judge. Cholmondeley vanished into the deserts of the Middle East to fight locusts. Adolf Kloss, the butterfly-collecting spy in Huelva, was never punished for his wartime work and returned to his quiet life. Karl Erich Kuhlenthal, the ambitious Abwehr officer, escaped to Germany after the war, rebuilt his family textile business, and died in 1975. Alexis von Roen, the brilliant analyst who had secretly opposed Hitler, was arrested after the July 20th plot and executed by hanging in October 1944. Hilgarth retired to Ireland and died there in 1978. Jewell married the woman he loved and rose to command a submarine flotilla. Jean Leslie, the young secretary who played Pam, married a soldier after the war and lived a quiet life, forever linked to the greatest deception of the war. Pujol disappeared to Venezuela, and every year in April an English woman walks through the gates of the cemetery in Huelva carrying flowers. She kneels before a grave that bears two names, one a fiction, the other a forgotten man who, in death, helped to change the course of history. If you have any family stories or historical memories from the Second World War, we would love to hear them in the comments below. Please consider subscribing to the channel and giving this video a like to support our future documentaries. Thank you for listening.